Hello loves, welcome back. I feel very strange filming this because I have not filmed for a few weeks and I've also not been on Instagram much, so I apologise for the radio silence. I have just been taking some time to myself. If you don't already know, if you haven't been on my Instagram, I am sheltering in place, to use the current terminology, in Memphis at my dad's house, which was not where I expected to be at this time of year. And I don't really want to add to the coronavirus noise and add, more coronavirus talk to your lives, because I'm sure you've had more than enough and you don't need my take or my thoughts. I will actually put a timestamp down below if you do want to skip it, because I know it can be like almost triggering at this point if you are trying to avoid it. But I know that some of you are concerned or were concerned about me being responsible during the coronavirus crisis, so I will run you through quickly kind of how I ended up here, basically, as quick as I can. So on the 10th of March, Zach and I took off for what was going to be a really great trip with Visit the USA to the southwest of America, so Nevada, Utah and Arizona were the states we were going to specifically. And I was really excited about it because it was kind of like a bucket list thing for both me and Zach, really. So I was very excited, and at the time the cases in London were extremely low, and I also considered myself pretty low risk anyway because I work from home by nature. I'm generally a bit reclusive by nature, and it'd been over 2 weeks since we got back from St. Lucia and I hadn't exhibited any symptoms during that time. Now, I have been asymptomatic the whole time. I know that you can be asymptomatic and still spread the virus. Totally understand that. But throughout this whole process I have been really vigilant with hand washing, and obviously in order to catch coronavirus, I'm sure you all know this, but just to reiterate, you need to somehow get the virus into your body. So that can be through someone coughing or sneezing near you and their respiratory droplets basically making its way onto your hands or your face from your hands and into your system that way, or it's someone with the virus contaminating a surface that you then touch and then put onto your face. Now, I had been vigilant before I left London and then throughout this whole trip about basically not touching my face at any time unless I'd literally just wash my hands, and constantly washing hands, sanitizing. And that doesn't just protect me, it protects everyone else, because it means that any respiratory droplets that I did have, although I don't think I contaminated many surfaces because, like I said, I wasn't really coughing or sneezing or doing any of that into my hands and then contaminated surfaces. But anyway, yes, it also protects other people because you don't contaminate surfaces as a result. So cases very low in London, and cases were also, to my knowledge, very low where we were travelling. Now, granted, we did fly into Las Vegas, and also airports and stuff can be a little bit of a danger zone, I guess, for the transmission of the virus. But again, I mean, I don't think at any point over the past few weeks I have witnessed someone coughing or sneezing within my vicinity. And like I said, I was Detolling every surface on the aeroplane, everything I touched, all my high touch things, my phone, credit cards, all that kind of stuff, cameras. So yeah, I was being hyper vigilant. And when we got to Vegas, it's late at night. I can probably count on one hand the amount of people that we spent more than 15 minutes in the company of, because obviously to catch the virus you need to be kind of close in the company of someone else. From my memory, we were not really in the company of many other people, because so within the group, obviously that is, so once we kind of started the trip with the group of other influencers and stuff we were with, that's when that's your isolation group. And yeah, we really weren't coming into contact with many people outside of that. I think the main risk areas would have been restaurants, because you don't know who's in the kitchen. Basically, in the days after we landed, things really started ramping up both at home and in the US. So it was really unfortunate timing. I think if we had been planning to fly 2 or 3 days later, the trip probably wouldn't have gone ahead, but it did go ahead. And as soon as we were out of Vegas, we were travelling in national parks. Now these were really like low population areas. Nobody on the trip was symptomatic or coughing or any of that. So yes, it's difficult to cast your mind back to that time because it feels so alien now, but to my mind it was kind of important to keep life going as and where it was possible, and I didn't foresee any of this kind of lockdown and all of that kind of stuff, so it made sense within my common sense, my intuition, and being hypervigilant about hygiene to just continue with caution and with, you know, good sense, and for a time that made sense, and then things got worse and it seemed silly to continue as normal. And that kind of goes for posting as well. I know some people were concerned about me posting about travel during the crisis, and for a time it seemed like people kind of would want to see something that wasn't coronavirus related, and then I think it just got a bit ridiculous, so I decided to stop posting entirely. Yes, and then things started closing, it was really ramping up. At home and in the US, people decided to go home, and this is where it got a little bit tricky because we were making tough decisions like whether to go home or not go home. I have a little bit of anxiety around airports and airplanes anyway. It's been building for a few years, and the last thing I wanted was to go home to a really busy airport because people were really rushing out of the country at the time, and spend 36 hours sitting on the floor of an airport waiting to hear whether we'd be able to get on the next flight, you know, if our flight was cancelled. And our flight home was actually cancelled, our original flight, and you know, everything was getting cancelled, and it was just sounded really stressful, especially when you're already a bit stressed about airports and stuff anyway. So yeah, me and Zach made the decision to stay and to travel to Memphis to my dad's house. Obviously it's not ideal to travel cross country. We had to drive from Vegas to Memphis. In driving we managed to kind of isolate ourselves as best as we could. By that point all restaurants were closed to in-house eating, so we were just eating in our cars and sanitising everything inside, sanitising the car constantly. So yes, and then we made it to Memphis and we self-isolated here for a couple of weeks, and now those 2 weeks have passed, we've not had any symptoms, and to our knowledge we've not had the virus. Again, I know that you can be asymptomatic and have had it, but yes, to our knowledge we haven't had it, nor would we have had cause to get tested. So that is what happened, you guys. I hope that you trust that I made the best possible decisions that I could in a relatively unprecedented situation. I just still don't know what the best thing to do would have been. Would it have been a good idea to go home halfway through the trip to a bigger danger zone, which was London? Would it have been a good idea to go home at the end of the trip and make sure that we were home in order to stay at home? Is it better to stay? And I can't guarantee that I will stay throughout the whole of this coronavirus crisis, because I don't know how the situation will change again. You know, if I find out in a week's time that nothing's opening for 6 months, then it's possible that I will go home. But for now, I'm happy to stay at home, shelter in place, and be as responsible as I can be whilst I'm here. It's tricky to do the right thing, make the right decision, and it's been a crazy time. All of this absolutely pales in comparison to the experience of frontline workers, healthcare workers, waste disposal workers, people working in essential businesses like supermarkets, pharmacies, delivery people. All of those people, I have my heart and my thoughts are with you. You are helping us get through this. I feel very privileged to have been able to stay in the US, can stay at my dad's house and shelter here, and basically I've had a couple of weeks off, and I understand all of that is an absolute privilege. My heart is with the people working on the front lines of this virus. Like it will amount to what I imagine to be trauma for them. Just the other day I was reading through nurses saying that they had to be the last person speaking to people that were dying of the virus, that they were having to organise family to FaceTime people so they could share their final words, and that completely broke my heart because I know how important it was to me and my family to spend the final few days with my aunt a couple of years ago, and it's really brought that to my mind and just made my heart break for obviously the patient, the nurses and doctors that have to witness that, and for the families that can't say their final goodbyes. And that's just one element of this whole thing. So anything that I say is not important compared to that. That is of the utmost importance, and I wish, and I have had a lot of anger also towards the UK government as things started to get more serious in the UK whilst we were here, and Boris Johnson was talking about herd immunity and all this absolutely ridiculous stuff, especially considering we had the example of Italy, who my love goes to all the Italians following me. I know that it has been extreme for you, and I think it will be extreme in the UK, sadly, and I know that I had a lot of messages of concern from you guys, and I know that it only came from a good place and a place of wanting to share your experiences and warn the rest of the world basically, and I totally understand that, and my heart goes out to you guys. But yes, the response of the UK was absolutely irresponsible in the extreme and will lead to a lot of lives lost. I cannot get over it. I also think that it's crazy how little testing has been done. I've had stories from home of people that were severely ill, not getting tested even though they had all the symptoms, and just being told to go home and isolate. I think that's crazy. It's possible that there were lots more cases in London when I left the country than I even knew of, and if I had known about them I probably would have changed my travel plans, but I didn't know because the government refused to test. I don't know if it was just to keep numbers down for their own, to look good to the rest of the world, or what it was, but it was absolutely ridiculous. People were being sent away with all the symptoms just to go and isolate at home. You need to track and trace and test people who have the virus, because that will be your surefire way of helping reduce and flatten the curve. And I can't believe that they weren't doing that. It becomes clear to me that probably before I left there were lots of people who weren't being tested who should have been tested, and that makes me quite angry. I understand that testing kits and having the labs process them must be extremely expensive, but there does seem to be a lot more money for bailouts and everything, and I really think the government should have changed had a much better policy from the start. As soon as there were cases in London, they should have been testing and tracking everyone. Also, if you test along with lockdown measures, particularly if you can say that a certain group of people in a certain area have caught the virus, then you can just lock down that area as opposed to everywhere. And if and when it does come to more severe lockdown measures, if you test, you can make that process a lot quicker and shut that virus down a lot quicker. And the fact that that has not happened in the UK makes me, like I said, very, very angry. And I think that lockdown will continue for much longer than it needs to be because of irresponsible actions by the people in charge. And yes, that's made me quite upset, and it also will lead to loss of life, and it will lead to traumatic experiences for plenty of frontline workers. So that has made me upset, not least also because we've had a government in place for years which has underfunded the NHS in the extreme. We are seeing now what any kind of strain does to that system when you underfund it, and I hope that when we come out of this we will change that, and we will give much better pay to not just healthcare workers but also all essential workers, and really understand just how important they are and how much we need to value what they do. I'm hoping that that might be something vaguely positive to come out of this, although I don't have much hope or faith anymore in the government. But yes, it has been terrifying to watch that, and I hoped that we would have had a different result in the election before, so that, you know, we hadn't voted for a government that does underfund the NHS. If you are a frontline worker or an essential worker, my love is with you, and I want to thank you so much for everything that you are doing and have done and will do. As for me, I am just me. I tried to do the best that I could and make the right decisions, but I may not have made the right decisions, but you know, life goes on. I can only do what I thought was best at the time, given the information I had at the time. And at all times I was like basically following WHO guidelines and the country's guidelines that I was in. So that is, yes, what I'm doing. Now I'm obviously staying at home. You know, we've missed our chance to really test track and nip this in the bud, both in the UK and here really. So now I have to wait it out, which I will do along with all the rest of you, and I hope that you're all in good health and that your families are all in good health and that the toll on your mental health is not too bad. So yes, that's all I'm going to say about all of that stuff. It was very unfortunate timing flying out here, and that I will be wary of that in any future situations like this, of how quickly it can spiral out of control, and to take more precautions. And you know, I've definitely learned a lot during this process, and I also feel bad on a different level, because I feel bad that I kind of abandoned you guys at your time of need. You know, everyone needs content to help them keep going, I think, through this, and I've appreciated seeing people posting about just getting on with life. But thank you guys so much for your messages of concern and love and support. That's been amazing. I don't deserve it, not one iota, so thank you so much for those. I appreciate you all very much. But anyway, I thought one of the best ways that I could help and talk to you guys was about books, because I'm sure some of you have at least thought about reading a little bit more at this time. I have to admit, I have found it really, really hard to concentrate on my reading. I've probably maintained about the level that I usually read, but I've not really been able to blitz through loads more reading or anything like that, because as I'm sure many of you can understand and sympathise with, it has been just one of those things where you're constantly thinking about it, constantly picking up your phone to check the news. I have managed to find some moments when I just kind of put my phone down, hide it basically, and do some reading and find some concentration, but it has been tricky. And if you want to lie on the sofa and watch endless TV, then that is totally fine and understandable, and you don't have to be productive. But yes, if you are finding yourself with more time on your hands, and you would like to read a bit more, I thought I would run through how I find the books that I read, because I've often had questions about that before, and how to choose books to read and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, my main tip for concentration is to hide your phone. Just like turn it off, put it on silent or airplane mode or whatever, and then like physically put it out of your sight, if you want to concentrate a little bit better. Finding books to read. First of all, look at shelves. Your shelves are going to be a really good indicator of what you like to read, because it's all very well and good me running through how I find books if it's how I find books that you wouldn't like. I kind of discovered a few years ago that I actually really love speculative fiction. Often, like, I have a higher hit rate of good speculative fiction than I do lots of other types of fiction. That doesn't mean I don't love other types of fiction or other books, but it's just a genre that I particularly enjoy. Maybe you enjoy romance novels, maybe you enjoy memoirs, maybe you enjoy books about a particular place. It's good to kind of know what you like and have a good understanding of that, but also you do want to branch out a little bit. I try and read quite widely from lots of different genres and lots of different things that I wouldn't necessarily pick up by myself, but it's up to you. If you're not a voracious reader, then just pick books you're going to like, and nobody's going to berate you for that. I actually have a couple of blog posts about how I read lots, which I'll link up down below, but obviously, like I said, this is quite a unique situation, and that might not be very helpful for this time. But okay, so if you have Twitter or a social media of any kind that you kind of go on semi-religiously, I'm a big Twitter lurker, but I don't tweet, but I just lurk on there, but it is really useful to me. I follow LitHub, which is a great website. You can go on the website by yourself as well, you don't have to have Twitter to use it, but because they tweet out regularly kind of articles they have going on and stuff, it's quite a useful place to just pick up on those articles rather than visiting the website. But anyway, visit the website as well. So LitHub, that has more kind of long form articles and stuff as well, but they do sometimes have lists of books. I particularly enjoyed all their ones at the end of last year of like their best books of the decade. I thought those were really interesting, and they do good roundups like that. I also follow Bookmarks, which is kind of affiliated with LitHub, and they're basically like the Rotten Tomatoes of books, and they collate all these reviews together and give you a good idea of kind of what the critics are saying. So if it's like fully positive, or like rave reviews or positive reviews, and they have different levels. And basically they're on top of all the releases because, like I said, they're the Rotten Tomatoes of books. So all the new releases, they have lists of books of what's coming out. I think they do like best reviews of the week, so best book reviews of the week, and they also have like new releases every Tuesday or whatever. So they collate everything. Again, I follow them on Twitter, so I find it easier to kind of click through to them on there on things that I'm interested in, but you can just go on the website. I also follow the prizes. So the prizes are a big one. Obviously, prizes are not the be-all and end-all of what books are good, and there's plenty of amazing books that never make it onto the prize lists, and also a lot of questionable books that do make it onto prize lists, although that's part of the fun. My favourites are the Man Booker International Prize, and the Pulitzer, and the Goldsmith Prize is good, and also the Hugo Awards, which is sci-fi and fantasy. So the Man Booker, I tend to follow the most religiously. I'll probably read most of the short list, or the long list for that this year. It comes out around September, October time. The Man Booker International, which is translated fiction, I kind of just cherry pick things that I think I will get on with. I've got quite a good idea of the kind of books that I'll like, kind of books that I won't like. The Pulitzer is American fiction and is a bit hit and miss for me, actually. I read an article today, came up on my Twitter somehow, of the list of all the Pulitzer Prize winners, and some I absolutely love and some I absolutely loathed. So they're a little bit hit and miss, but the last winner was The Overstory by Richard Powers, which I loved. So they have a little mini shortlist or books that are runners up as well, so there tends to be about 3 books on there a year. Then there's Hugo Awards, like I said, science fiction, fantasy, and then the Goldsmith, I think it's called the Goldsmith Award, is like I don't know, like uber literary fiction, like experimental fiction. The British Literary Award, founded in 2013, is for fiction that opens up new possibilities for novel form. And that was recently awarded to Lucy Ellman for Duck's New Report. So that is, also Women's Prize is good as well. So that should give you like a good roster of books to start from each year, and a good idea of like new releases as well. And then I tend to go on Goodreads and look up a book on one of those lists from LitHub, Bookmarks, one of the prize long listers or whatever. I'll go onto Goodreads, look it up, see the ratings and reviews. Ratings can be sometimes helpful, sometimes not helpful, but something I really find very useful is looking at the bad reviews for books. That's where I go first. I never look at the good reviews. I always just go straight to the bad reviews. And if the bad reviews are about things that generally I don't mind in a book, for example, the character was really unlikable or this, that and the other, then I'll kind of ignore them. But if the bad reviews are for things that I hate in a book, like it was problematic for whatever reason or anything like that, then I kind of find them helpful to knock a book off the list. And then I'll basically just add all these books to my want to read on Goodreads, and that gives me a really huge, I think I've got like over 400 books on there now, and that's like, really that's not everything that I want to read because there's lots I have in my mind. But anyway, then I'll add them to my want to read, and I'll have like a huge selection of books that I can always pick from, and I kind of scroll through my want to read sometimes and reacquaint myself with some of the synopses and decide what I want to read and what kind of mood I'm in. Obviously, and then at a certain stage you kind of reach a point where you're quite familiar with lots of authors and which authors you like, which authors you don't like, and you can kind of start really narrowing it down on what you want to spend your time reading. So that is how I find my books. I will be doing a March books because there's lots to talk about, but I didn't get around to reading my book club picks because I didn't have them with me and I didn't want to re-buy them on my Kindle. So they're postponed until whenever I can get home. I was going to read them when I came back from my trip, but obviously that didn't happen. So I have not read my book club picks, but I have lots to talk to you guys about, so I will do that. I don't have the physical books with me. I hope that's okay. I've been reading on my Kindle basically ever since. Do I have anything else to talk to you guys about for now? I don't think so. I'm going to document over the next couple of days probably, just trying to find a new routine, trying to get some work done, some real stuff done again, and try and just get into the new groove basically. It was Zach's 26th birthday last week, so I was kind of distracted by that. Otherwise I think I would have begun last week because yeah, like I said, I'm kind of slowly coming back to life a little bit. I'm slowly getting into a little bit more of a routine here. I've started exercising again, which has been really great. Did a run this morning. Don't worry, we are in the suburbs, there's literally no one on the roads, and if there is, you can keep well over 6 feet away from them. And obviously I'm trying to get back into posting again. Zach's got his laptop here. He doesn't actually have Final Cut on it, so I don't know how we're gonna have to work that out and get him Final Cut downloaded on there so we can do some editing on there. Thank God we brought his laptop because usually I travel with just my iPad, so thank goodness for that. Zach's very neat food workstation for dinner, making a kind of, is it going to be oyster sauce sort of thing, or a different sort of sauce?
Kind of like oyster, soy, stock.
Nice.
And this is the side dish, which is sesame, soy, mirin.
Yeah, this is the salad. And these are the bits for the dinner. Zach's been doing most lunches. We are at home with my sisters, obviously, who aren't at school. Also got to spend a lot of time with this fluffy monster. This is Bella, and she's very cute. Very cuddly and very soft. Good morning, my loves. I don't know where I left you. I think it was dinner last night. But now I've done a little intro, I thought I'd do a proper kind of daily vlog today. And I'm just off for a run. I managed to wake up earlier than I have been waking up, which is good. And it looks like a beautiful sunny day. So I'm going to go for a quick run. I have to wear my glasses. I've run out of contact lenses because I obviously didn't expect to be in the US for so long. I have ordered some more. I've been trying to limit deliveries in general. One exception I did make was for gym clothes because I didn't bring any. I always bring some gym clothes, and I always find that if I bring them, I don't use them. If I don't bring them, I always need them. And that proved to be true in this case. So I did get some gym clothes, and I did get some stuff laying around the house because there was no way I was about to sit in isolation wearing jeans all day, so I did get to those two things. But anyway, I got this little top, little gym top, and some cycling shorts. Nothing crazy, but anyway, I'm gonna head out on my run. It's about just over 3 kilometers, the route that I'm gonna do, and yes, managed to do it in 20 minutes yesterday, which is not so bad. Building up to doing a little bit more every day, really. I might try and do some weights today. I really need to get doing some. My dad actually has like a little gym here, which is very, very fortunate. And he's got a rowing machine in there and a few dumbbells and some kettlebells, I think. So I really should do some stuff, but I don't want to. I'm up and ready for the day. Had a shower after my run, obviously. Got ready for the day. Zach made me a coffee actually, which I forgot to film, but he's becoming a little bit of a barista because, actually I'll show you my outfit. Because my dad has like a proper coffee machine, so he's been experimenting with trying to make kind of barista style coffee, because that's what we would usually have at home. And it's a nice little bit of routine that kind of makes me feel like I'm at home a little bit. But anyway, I'm actually dressed properly today because we just took a picture, the first picture I've taken of myself for a long time, a few weeks, which feels like a long time in Instagram world, and I feel better for it. My sister's actually using the laptop at the moment to have a piano lesson, but once she's done with that, I think I'll edit that picture. Obviously we're on a bit of a time difference here, and that means that my posting times are different, which has been messing with my head a little bit. But anyway, this is what I'm wearing today. I'm wearing this gorgeous Free People, I think it's called the Oasis dress. They have it in lots of colours. Got mine last year and I love it, and it is the only dress I think I have with me on this trip. So just took a little picture in the garden in my dad's yard, as they would call it here. Anyway, Zach's just been thinking about some lunch. Like I said, I'm going to wait for my sister to be done with the laptop and do the editing of that picture. But in the meantime, I'm going to do some unstacking of the dishwasher, which is more exciting. So guys, right now I am reading Born by Jeff Vandermeer on my Kindle. I'm reading basically everything on my Kindle at the moment because I don't want to order books to here, partially because I'm cutting down on deliveries obviously, but also I'm going to have to take them home eventually. So yes, I've been reading lots on my Kindle. I have discovered though that I read a lot more when I'm reading physical books. Just my reading is a lot more focused. It's a weird thing. I don't know if it's like a looking at the screen thing, or I like to like physically feel like how many pages I'm going to read. So I usually like set myself a goal every day and like physically hold that amount of pages, which is something I haven't really been able to do, obviously, with my Kindle. But anyway, that is irrelevant. I've been reading Born by Jeff. So my camera died before, but I've been enjoying Jeff Vandermeer's books. It's what I was saying, because he really takes me out of the world. Like, they're so otherworldly. They're a bit scary and horrifying and intense, but they do manage to transport me. So that's why I've read so many recently, I think. And yes, I'm enjoying Born more than I thought I would, considering the kind of batshit blurb it has, which I was like, am I going to like this? Is it going to be as good as the Ariex trilogy? But it was. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear everything. There's a lot going on. One sister is playing the trumpet. One is in there desperately searching for cookies that Zach has hidden. So, yes. But anyway, I have just sorted out my memory card so I can continue vlogging. And we had lunch, actually. Zach made some chicken, and then we just had like tortillas with fillings. And now I'm going to take the dog for a walk. I think Zach's going to come with me. She is the most lovely, gorgeous little pup. She is a bit of a terror on her walks with other dogs. I think it's a small dog thing, I don't know. But I'm trying to train her. What a lovely little pup. Until we see another dog.
Because it's glamorous. Because it's glamorous.
So back from our walk, which is very nice, very chill, not too many other dogs. This dog wants to come and cuddle. Well, it thinks it does, but then it gets distracted out in the garden. So I'm just going to read, I think, for the rest of the afternoon. Kind of completed a lot more tasks than I have been completing every day. I've been a little bit more productive, so yeah, I'm just going to chill out and read. How beautiful is this white flower behind me? It's just blossomed since we've been here. Before it was just a green bush, and it's so pretty. I really do want to learn more about plants and trees and stuff. Like, I want to be one of those people, and I need to figure out the best way to do it. Do I just read about it? Do I do some sort of course? I don't know, but I want to be one of those nature people, you know? Anyway, me and this dog are going to chill outside and enjoy the weather. Zach's got a lasagna bubbling away in the oven for this evening. This is very fancy. Got some salads. Nice.
This is very 70s.
Yeah, very 70s. This dog has been non-stop barking out the windows. This creature has been staying up too late with us, and now she can't be bothered to go to bed. Excuse me. Come on, bedtime. It managed to remove itself to the very edge of my side of the bed. Anyway guys, I'm going to end this vlog here. I think I've rambled enough. I will probably vlog again soon, because what else is there to do, you guys? And also I will sort out my book video. I need to like gather some brain cells, because I think they've all died in the past few weeks. So once I have gathered those, I will do you a book video. But yes, thank you for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed, even if it was very rambly and random. And I will see you again soon.